Good afternoon. How are you? Last time when we talked about dosage forms, part of pharmaceutics 1, classification of various dosage forms, classification of dosage forms according to routes of drug administration. We talked about classification of dosage forms according to the physical state, and we gave a number of dosage forms. We said that for you to conceptualize the concept of dosage forms, you need to understand these four major aspects. One, major formulation, what ingredients are used in various dosage forms, formulation, and we should be able to write the formulation notes per dosage form, methods of preparation, advantages and disadvantages of each dosage form as you compare them with the other dosage forms. We said you should avoid giving dosage forms, advantages of dosage forms without comparisons, and also how they are processed, then packaging requirements, quality control measures, and major tests that are carried out on various dosage forms to establish their quality and their efficacy. And we also agree that you should also understand the packaging requirements, then also stability measures. So as we agreed, of course, we are supposed to look at those two major aspects, those two broad classifications, according to the physical state and according to the routes of drug administration. Moving forward, you also need to understand the common instabilities that are encountered in various dosage forms. We talked of solids, tablets, capsules, lozenges, pills, to mention but a few, liquids, which are either monophasic or biphasic, and we just talked about suspensions and emulsions and semi-solids as well, including creams, pastes, gels. And I remember telling you very well that for creams they undergo major instabilities encountered. For example, in creams, in formulation of creams, creaming, it's one of them, phase inversion, and the rest. You also understand very well classification of drug excipients or excipients used in various dosage forms. Classifications, how do we classify them? For example, we talked about that very well, I remember. So our next topic to look at is drug stability or stability of drugs. Stability of drugs. What is stability? We say that an ideal pharmaceutical product it must exhibit various parameters, and we say there are four major parameters that should be possessed by a good pharmaceutical product. It should be, first of all, stability in terms of appearance, physical appearance, chemically, physically, microbiologically. It should be stable. That is in terms of physical appearance, then also physical, chemical, and microbiological stability. Then we said also it should, besides being stable, it should be safe for patient use. It should be efficacious and should be effective. Those are the four major aspects of an ideal pharmaceutical product. So moving forward, let's look at the stability of drugs, common instabilities, and what causes such instabilities that are encountered in various dosage forms. And in case a question comes, for example, at your pub, they ask you to talk about or discuss broadly common stability tests or instabilities encountered in various dosage forms, you should be able to state them and even have something to write about them. Stability of drugs. Stability of drugs is our next topic. Stability of drugs. So stability, as we said last time, it's the capacity or ability of a drug or a product to remain within specifications established to ensure its identity, strength, and purity. So it must maintain its strength. If we perform, for example, any analytical test, it should do the strength of the medicine that it had at the point of manufacture or at the time of manufacture should be retained, or should be able to be retained for stability to be ensured. So you should be able to maintain all the physical, chemical, and microbiological specifications that a given product possessed at the time of manufacture. If, for example, chemically, if we do an acid test, does it contain the same analyte that it possessed at the point of or at the time of manufacture, the same quantity in terms of quantity and also in terms of quality? When you talk of quality, products can degrade due to either oxidation. Oxygen can cause oxygen-free radicals can cause oxidation and removal of some functional groups, and also hydration or hydrolysis can also cause the removal of some functional groups. For example, if we may talk of esters, one example is aspirin, which is a product of salicylic acid and acetic acid, which is acetylsalicylic acid. In other words, it undergoes spontaneous hydrolysis once it is in contact with water, so it is unstable. It is not stable in moisture. So that is what we call stability. A product must be able to maintain its physical, chemical, microbiological presentations, and also it must be able to retain the stability, efficacy, effectiveness, and also must remain safe. We very well know that once products expire or once they undergo degradation, they lose efficacy, they lose effectiveness, they lose their safety. If a product was containing a drug aspirin now changes chemically, the structure of aspirin changes, maybe it becomes acetic acid, and as the patient is taking, instead of taking a drug, is taking something that is acidic, or that is maybe has turned into a very dangerous poison. So we say that drugs can be poisons in unregulated quantities, and the poisons can as well be drugs, but in regulated quantities or doses. So this is what we call stability, and instabilities may cause an undesired change in performance. For example, bioavailability may change, and the rate of dissolution, for example at physiological pH, may also change. Then change in physical appearance of dosage form. Maybe, for example, a tablet is a solid dosage form. Uniform tablets may change their physical state, and they either complex or they molten, they become like a cake. A tablet becomes like a cake. That's what we call caking. That is change of physical appearance. The next is causing product failures. The product will no longer retain or no longer have its original therapeutic effects. So a patient will take this product and they will not experience any therapeutic outcomes. Factors that affect stability: one, of course, environmental factors. These ones include temperature, oxygen, carbon dioxide. Temperature itself, increase in temperature of the product, or anything that can elevate or raise the temperature of the product, it automatically increases kinetic energy of molecules in the product by causing or changing the transition of the product from their resting states to higher states, and the ultimate increase in temperature may cause may accelerate what we call oxidation. Oxygen itself is not desired, or it's not necessary to be in the product, because oxygen-free radicals, they cause oxidation. As you know very well, if you react, for example, hydroxyl OH, you react it with oxygen, you will form water. And for example, if a drug molecule has a functional group, hydroxyl group as a functional group, after it reacting with the water or with the maybe reacting with water, oxygen reacting with hydroxyl group. You look at the aspirin. I've always drawn for you the structure of aspirin. I may not draw it now because I don't have enough time to do that, but you know that it has that it has acetic acid group attached, and once any for example environmental factors like oxygen reacts with hydroxyl group, it forms water, and that hydroxyl group is detached, so the product will no longer have its therapeutic efficacy. Because drugs, what makes the drug potent and efficacious is their chemical structure activity relationship, so that one will make or render the product less efficacious. Then drugs or excipients themselves can also cause or affect stability. Number 2, excipients in dosage forms. For example, if you add the excipients which are contaminated, they can cause microbial contamination. If you add excipients which maybe have oxygen, they may cause oxidation. That's why excipients must the common excipients that we use, for example, to preserve products, besides putting those ones that prevent degradation of the product by microorganisms, we add antioxidants like BHT, butyl hydroxytoluene, butyl hydroxyanisole. We have always talked about these excipients. These ones scavenge oxygen free radicals in the product, thus curbing or preventing oxidation. Then others, microbial contamination, microorganisms, that is bacteria and their spores. Then also trace metals or heavy metals like lead in water can also chelate or cause interactions with the drug and cause maybe complexation. Then leaching from containers may permit containers to allow microorganisms or oxygen or light to pass through and cause degradation of the product. Remember, we said most of the environmental factors that may cause drugs to degrade include oxygen. We have explained how sunlight itself, light can cause photolysis, and light itself as well oxidizes or enhances, together with the high temperature, enhances oxidation. So some products, that's why we keep them in colored amber bottles, to keep them free from sunlight or to block entry of sunlight, which may render them unstable. Then also moisture. That's why some drugs, not all of them, especially esters undergo spontaneous hydrolysis once they get in contact with moisture. So drugs like esters, especially aspirin itself is an ester. It can be degraded by moisture. Then others, you can be asked such a question to talk about these factors or to explain them. Types of stability studies, we have physical, chemical, microbiological. These are stability studies. You can be asked at any time to talk about any of these instabilities or to talk about all of them. Types of stability studies. Physical studies, how do we determine stability of drugs? By, for example, acceleration of stability studies. Stability of drugs or drug half-life, not half-life but shelf-life. Drug shelf-life is estimated using Renier's equation. You can see how we can estimate various drug stability studies based on their physical, chemical, and the microbiological concentrations. These are the three stability studies: physical, chemical, microbiological. As you read, please be able to explain all these three: chemical, physical, and microbiological stability studies. If we may look at physical, of course, we talked about physical aspects of a dosage form, ranges from clarity or what physical appearance, in terms of uniformity, in terms of colors, in terms of size, in terms of other organoleptic properties that are physical. These ones, the formulation is totally unchanged throughout its shelf life. you ensure that if it's a tablet, it's a capsule, or it's a syrup, or it's a colorless injectable, it's a normal saline, it's colorless. Throughout its shelf life, it should remain colorless throughout, and that is part of physical. Tablets should retain there. If you perform hardness test, friability test, you should be able to pass the same test, because those are physical forms of physical stability. Then a physical stability tests, physical instabilities. For example, here this step we are going to see dosage forms, formulations, then likely physical instability problems and effects or changes that may occur once a product or such as certain dosage forms lose their stabilities or they become unstable. What happens? For example, drugs may smell, change in the order may change, then taste may change, and other aspects, and especially in oral dosage forms, oral solutions. Then for parenterals, they may change in bioavailability. The fraction of drug obtained in the plasma, or the fraction of the drug that is found in plasma or in blood after administration may change, and the rate of absorption may also change due to changes in physical aspects. For various dosage forms, suspensions, we talked about them. Once they undergo any instability problem, they for example they settle or sediment, they may cake, especially the folliculated system of suspensions. We talked about the folliculated system. They may undergo caking, crystal growth, crystals may grow in them, and also they manifest with effects of loss of content uniformity. You may scoop content on top of the bottle because it has undergone sedimentation, or it has caked, or it has grown or developed some crystals. You find that the content of the drug is not uniformly distributed. In other words, the product is not homogeneous. That's why we said last time that once you keep your syrups, we prepare emulsions or suspensions. We add suspending agents like CMC. We can add the emulsifiers, for example, in emulsions, to stabilize the product. And the product, once it loses its uniformity, regardless whether it's a suspension or an emulsion, if it loses its uniformity, it has become unstable. So that those are in some of the instabilities. Others, for other creaming in emulsions, that's why we add the emulsifying agents or emulsifiers to stabilize the emulsions. Of course, we look at the water and oil content, and also the emulgent. That's why last time I talked about two types of emulsions: simple and complex emulsions, water in oil. Then the third component, besides water and oil, we add emulgents. Emulgents, we have like tragacanth, we have cetrimide. Those are emulsifying agents which unite water and cream or oil. These are physical stabilities. For semi-solids, you also read about them, the way you see them, read about them in this very angle. Then in the similar fashion for tablets, of course, they once they undergo instability, any instability problems, the disintegration time changes, dissolution profile changes, hardness changes. If you perform a friability test, you may find that the tablets can now lose particles. Once you throw them, or they fall down, they break, or because they become brittle, and some of these aspects change completely. For capsules, also you can look at the instabilities and effects in drugs. Chemical stability, of course, this is change in composition of the chemical or of the API. It is what we call an analyte. An analyte, if you do an analytical test to ascertain the concentration of an analyte in a particular solution, you find that if a product that has degraded, it be a tablet, it be a capsule, it be a solution, or a semi-solid, it has lost almost all its chemical content, or it has even increased the concentration can either increase or decrease. But in most cases, once it increases, then the product has as well become poisonous and has become more dangerous. So that is chemical instability. Chemical instability, we can perform it by running what we call UV stroke visible spectrometry, where you can analyze the concentration of the content in the preparation using a machine, spectrophotometer. Use spectrophotometer to analyze the amount of the drug that is in particular preparation, and of course the concentration will be determined by the absorbance of the UV spectrum, and also emittance of the light from the photons or light from the product. So we made that we compare wavelength, and also we compare with the standard to ascertain the changes that have occurred. Then you can also perform other analytical physical chemical tests to establish the chemical structure activity relationship. If they underwent, for example, hydrolysis, you can still know that products were destroyed by water, and hydrolysis means breakdown of the drug by water. For example, aspirin. I like using aspirin because it's the most common, and even you are very much familiar with this chemical structure. I've always drawn for you this structure. It's an ester. It undergoes spontaneous hydrolysis. Once it gets in touch with water, it sprints or it breaks down as a result of water or moisture. Hydrolysis occurs in esters like aspirin, alkaloids, drugs like dexa, steroids, nitroglycerin, or nitrates. In lactones, they can as well spironolactone, pirocarpine, amides like chloramphenicol, beta-lactams like penicillins, cephalosporins. These antimicrobial agents, they can undergo hydrolysis. That's why most of these drugs, they are prepared. For example, penicillin is like amoxicillin syrup, amoxicillin clavulate. If you open the bottle of amoxicillin, which is a penicillin, they are always prepared and packed, and after manufacture they are packed as powders, but they are not packed with water or as a solution. So meaning you as a user, you have to first reconstitute them prior to administration. You first add water in them and shake them. You first reconstitute, because at that time, after reconstitution and the time between a reconstitution time and administration time, it means that the product has not yet undergone bad. In other words, you reconstitute and administer instantly, and what remains, it cannot exceed 24 hours when it is still viable. You need to take note of that. That's why we have amoxicillin clavulate in stock, and it is not reconstituted. You only reconstitute it prior to administration. Even other drugs like aspirin, other drugs like pirocarpine, other drugs like chloramphenicol, they are available on the market. These products are available, and they are available as powders. Not, you only reconstitute them prior to administration, or either as IM or as IV or as, if you look at the benza, you first reconstitute it because it is not stable in moisture and cannot be prepared and sold as a solution, because you have a very short shelf life. Remember, we can ask you to define a shelf life. Shelf life is time between the time of manufacture and the expiry date. And expiry date, according to Arrhenius, it is estimated, or it is accelerated stability study that gives us that estimate or that estimation. Remember, everything now everything from manufacture to expiry, it bases on the fact that time can translate into age. Time itself can translate into age, and once products age, they expire or degrade. Oxidation, I talked about this, how products react with oxygen, and how electrons or also victrons or gain of molecules. Oxidation and the oxidation and the reduction, you should be able to explain or differentiate that too, because you do pharmaceutical chemistry. I'm trying to rush, but you conceptualize these ones as you read. Understand these ones very well. understand them very well to guide you on how oxidation occurs. Another stability study is photolysis, which is due to degradation or decomposition of the product by light. And I told you how light does that. For example, drugs, we have drugs like some antihypertensives like sodium nitroprusside. It is unstable. That's why it is kept in very dark environment and in colored aluminium foil, paper, or colored containers, dark amber containers where light cannot pass through. So that is the reason, because light can cause degradation, and that one we term it as photolysis, or breakdown of the molecule by light. So this is UV or ultraviolet radiation and wavelength, how we can determine or determine mechanisms of degradation by of the products by light using visible or invisible light rays. For example, IR, infrared, and also ultraviolet light rays, how they can estimate or help us to understand how degradation occurs by the product. We can use UV to test this in products, and you can see that products, after passing a UV light ray, within very few hours the product is no longer efficacious. It has lost all its stability. It has been degraded, in other words, by light. We can perform this test by using UV spectrophotometer, and we just pass UV light through the product and we see what happens. So this is how we can prevent photolysis by keeping drugs in cardboards, aluminium foils. We wrap them around aluminium foils because we know they cannot permit light to pass through them, and also suitable packaging materials like in amber colored bottles. That's why we keep some medicines in bottles which you cannot easily pass or see through to prevent photolysis. For now, I'm going to leave you to read the factors that affect the rates of degradation. And the last time when we last met, we agreed that you should go to a skills lab and prepare 70 ml of syrup BP. I gave you the specific gravity or density of syrup, it was given to you, and also the concentration of syrup BP. Prepare it and conserve that competence or that kind of try to do it so that you gain that kind of exposure, because these syrups are very common and it would be kinda erroneous for you to leave or to finish your pharmaceutics modules before you can able prepare this, because it's very common, and that is where you become relevant. If you cannot prepare this as a pharmacy assistant, then your relevance will really not be measurable. You read this, but before I can assign you to read and proceed with this, please, there are various calculations which I shared last time. Have a look at them, try to calculate them. After calculating these calculations, go ahead and practice them. Write working formulas, practice, calculate very many questions, and also write various working formulas. Write different formulation notes for different products. Topical ones, we talked about topicals. We classify those forms according to topical routes or their routes of drug administration. Classify them and know them. Classify them. Classify excipients used and their roles. In case I ask you in practicals to identify different pharmaceutical excipients and state their clinical or their pharmacological roles, you should be able to state their mechanisms of action or their therapeutic effects, mode of action of different pharmaceutical excipients. You should be able to state them. Then in other things we shall discuss them gradually. But in case also I get someone also to give me a hand, be assisting you, it's very fine. But we shall gradually interact if God wishes. I want to stop here for now, and I want to ask you members to read hard. We finished dosage forms. We talked about all topicals, We talked about parenterals, we talked about tablets, we talked about solutions, we talked about a number of things, and I appeal to you that you please concentrate and read, and also ensure that in whatever you are doing, you practice calculations so much. Practice calculations, practice these calculations. It is essential for a pharmacy professional to know these calculations. It's what makes you relevant in your career. Practice them so much, in and out. When we come back, we shall finish drug stabilities or drug stability tests. We shall start from here, from factors, and also I will give you a take home, something to discuss in your free time. Last time I left you with a number of questions to discuss, and if you have not discussed them up to now, then you must be having a very, very serious challenge. I want to ask you also to go ahead and read pharmaceutics. Read pharmaceutics. We are now after this stability. After this stability of those drug stability tests and whatever, we shall encroach on laboratory safety and chemical safety. Laboratory safety and chemical safety, and that will be our last topic to handle in pharmaceutics 1. Then calculations, fundamental operations, laboratory safety and chemical safety, equipment that are used in production of pharmaceutical products, safety equipment that are used by personnel who operate in skilled laboratories, and other aspects. Different uses of various lab equipment, and the rest we shall discuss. Then ultimately or eventually we shall have a comprehensive facilitation session whereby everyone will be very competent by the end of that session to go and showcase or present themselves before exams and do what is necessary. I wish you the best for now. Stay blessed.